Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another ATP Ride Report webinar session. My name is Ashley Pilon. I oversee airline and corporate partnerships at ATP. And today I'm really excited to introduce to you guys Nicholas Bhardwaj. He is a pilot recruiter with Mesa Airlines, and he's going to be discussing career opportunities at Mesa with us. Thanks for joining us today, Nick.
Yeah, good morning, Ashley, and thanks for having Mesa Airlines and myself.
Perfect. Well, while we're waiting for everyone to join, I'm just going to go ahead and push this poll out to you guys just to let us know which of the following situations applies to you. If you're just interested in receiving more information about Mesa, if you've perhaps already applied, or if you plan on applying in the next 6 months. So we'll give you another 15 seconds or so to get situated and go ahead and vote for that. Looks like the majority of you right now are interested in more information and just starting out. So that is great. We'll go ahead and give you a couple more minutes. Okay, we do have 5, Nick, that have already applied to Mesa. So
Awesome.
Good mix, and looks like a handful that will be applying in the next 6 months also. So we'll go ahead and share this with you guys very quickly. It looks like the majority of you are just starting out. So that is great information for us as we go ahead and get started today. I'm just going to get our presentation pulled up. So to start, since you are our guest, Nick, can you start by just telling us a little bit of background information about yourself and how long you've been with Mesa?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started with Mesa Airlines about a year to the month, actually. Currently, I'm a pilot recruiter with Mesa. I'm also a CFII in the Phoenix and Southern California area. About 5 years ago, I started my training out in Southern California, worked my way up, was an intern at another 121 carrier, worked my way up into the recruiting department at that carrier for about a year and a half, and then made the transition over to Mesa Airlines about a year ago. I've really been enjoying it. I'm also involved with a lot of organizations you guys may be involved out there with as well, Women in Aviation, NGPA, a few others, National Aviation Exploring. And then I'm also hoping to join you guys in the flight deck one day, as I know all of you are working very hard towards.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us and for giving us a little bit of insight into your background. That being said, we are here to discuss Mesa. So can you go ahead and just tell us a little bit of background information about Mesa?
Yeah, so Mesa Airlines was founded in 1982 by Larry Risley and Janie Risley. Larry was an A&P mechanic who lived in Farmington, New Mexico, and they both had a dream of pursuing an airline. So what they did was they mortgaged their home, they bought a 5-seat Piper Saratoga aircraft, and started Mesa Air Shuttle. And it's grown into what it is today, which is a sizable operation of over 145 aircraft.
Perfect. And with that, can you tell us a little bit about your fleet?
Yeah, moving right into the fleet. So currently we are flying 60 Embraer 175s for United Express out of Houston. We are also flying 20 CRJ 700s out of Washington Dulles for United Express. You see 80 175s on there because starting in September, we will be taking a delivery of an additional 20 Embraer 175s from September through January, replacing our CRJ 700s in Dulles. And then we also have 64 CRJ 900s. And recently, I'm sure most of you have heard our newest announcement. We will be taking delivery of 2 737-400F aircraft, flying them for DHL Express out of Cincinnati.
That's definitely great news, and we'll get into that shortly. So can you go over just a quick overview of where someone could potentially fly, what bases exist with Mesa?
Absolutely. So this is our route structure right here, which also highlights our bases. So the blue are going to be our United bases, and the red are going to be our American bases. Houston is our current 175 base. Dulles is our current CRJ 700 base for United, which will be transitioning to a 175 base as well. Our CRJ 900s are sprinkled throughout Phoenix, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Louisville, Kentucky. Our junior bases, what you can expect out of training, When training was in full swing, our junior base was Washington Dulles on the CRJ 700. Because we will be transitioning the 700s out of there, we're expecting Dallas to become our junior base on the CRJ. And on the 175, people will likely be going between Houston and Washington Dulles.
Okay, and then I know a question that we get a lot of times are just in training, how within each individual organization are the base and the aircraft selected? So can you expand upon that?
Absolutely. So with our bases and aircraft, we try as much as possible to allow our candidates to select their aircraft type. However, it is need-based and seniority-based, so it does depend on our vacancies. So we do have an allotted number of vacancies at each base when we have a training class come in. Most of the time, Washington Dulles, like I said, is our CRJ base that people get sent to, which will change over to Dallas probably. And then on the 175, we expect to have vacancies both in Houston and Dulles once training does resume.
Perfect. And while we're looking at a map, I know that one of your favorite benefits is the travel opportunities. So can you just speak to some of the different additional benefits that a pilot can expect to receive at Mesa?
Absolutely. At Mesa Airlines, because we do partner with American Airlines and United Airlines, we have the benefit of being able to travel around the world utilizing these benefits, non-revenue space available travel for you and your immediate family. So what's unique about being a pilot for us is we do have an expansive route network, which allows you to see lots of different places. You can meet a lot of different people around the country. And then again, you get these travel benefits, which allow you to expand out even more and travel all around the world.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, and there are some other benefits that you guys have as well. Can you speak about maybe the parking and the commuter policy?
Yeah, definitely. So for commuters, we do pay for your parking in your domicile. We have a generous commuter policy. We don't have a set number of hotels in the contract, but we do provide hotels need-based as long as you call scheduling and tell us about your needs. We do also reimburse you $40 a month to have an iPad that is up to date with proper charts, because we do utilize iPads as electronic flight bags. We also provide medical, dental, vision, 401k, all that standard stuff as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Well, I know that we touched on this briefly before, but right now we are all looking for some good news. So can you expand a little bit more on the new operation that will start in October with the two 737 aircraft for DHL?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to be able to speak on our new cargo operation. I know right now it's a tough time for the airline industry and there's not a lot of great news, but personally, I'm very happy to be working for Mesa Airlines, a company that thinks outside the box. And this just proves that we will be adding two 737-400F aircraft to the fleet. It's a 5-year contract with DHL. We'll be starting service in October of 2020, so in just a few months here, and our base will be located in CVG, Cincinnati.
Awesome. And how are pilots selected to fly this, and what type of commitment is required? And then can you talk about how this really just even internally at Mesa helps set someone up for success and career advancement?
Yeah, absolutely. So our initial cadre of pilots was a hand-picked group of line check airmen who all have actually already completed their training. So they will be the initial cadre flying the 737, and then the rest is kind of to be determined on how we will be selecting the rest of the pilots that will be flying the 737s. It's the standard commitment that is already in our contract. It's a 3-year seat lock unless you're upgrading, of course. And it really opens doors to a lot of future opportunities as well. There's, I don't think, a single other regional airline that can say they fly a narrow body mainline aircraft like the 737. So it really gives you the unique opportunity, if you do get to fly this aircraft, to be able to apply at other major carriers when you're looking at that next step with the 737 type rating, which is really going to make you stand out among the crowd, and really help accelerate your career into another company that may fly these aircraft.
Awesome. Well, that is certainly great news. And with that, talking about careers, you are obviously very skilled to speak on this. Can you talk to us and just walk us through the interview, what the different portions are, and expand on that?
Absolutely. So first we'll talk about how the interview is structured, and then we'll get into some tips on how to be successful with our interview. So we have a few main portions of the interview. We're going to start by talking about your background information. This consists of your driving record, your criminal record, if that does apply, and then your training record as well. So check ride failures, where you attended flight school. And then we'll go through an employment history check. So we're going to talk about the past 10 years of your employment. We're going to talk about the companies you've worked for, what kind of skills you've developed at these companies that carry over into the 121 world, how you can utilize those skills to succeed at Mesa Airlines. And then we'll go into a logbook check, just basic overview, what's your total time, multi-engine time, make sure you do meet the minimum requirements to fly for us. And then we'll get into the main portion of the interview, which is really the important portion where we want to see you shine. We have a few behavioral questions for you. We're going to ask, tell me about a time questions. They're going to be asking about, tell me about a time you had maybe a stressful situation with another pilot in the cockpit or a conflict in the cockpit. Tell me about a time you went out of your way to help a student in various scenarios like that. Getting into some tips on how you can be successful, which will be on the next slide. Relax, start by relaxing. We're gonna start by opening up, and we just wanna get to know you a bit. Tell us about, why is aviation the right career for you? Why Mesa Airlines? Be yourself and be honest. We wanna get to know you. Your questions are welcome. If you need us to repeat a question that we ask, please make sure you do ask us that. The worst thing that can happen is, we ask you one question and you give us an answer to another question. And, we want to make sure that the communication is open between you as the applicant and us as the recruiters. Let us get to know you. This is probably the biggest one. Make sure you're not, putting on a facade per se to create a fake persona for yourself. Just be yourself. Oftentimes, if you're not yourself, it does show. And most of the time, we really just want to get to know you as the pilot, see if you're a good fit for the company, see if you're a good fit to put you in the cockpit with another pilot on a 4-day trip for hours out of the day. And overall, we're looking for good employees. What does this mean? It means you go out of your way to help customers. You're safe. You have good decision-making skills. You have the ability to work with another person in the cockpit. And not only the basic flying skills, but also get involved outside of just your flying, right? There's lots of organizations out there that allow you to help others get into aviation, to share your love for aviation. We want to see the passion that you have for aviation. Are you involved with groups such as Women in Aviation, OBAP, and GPA, and there's countless others that you can get involved with as well.
Perfect. That's all sound advice. And that is what we're moving on to. So sounds like you have a little bit more career advice to provide to our viewers today.
Yeah, no matter if you're coming to Mesa Airlines or just somewhere else in the airline industry, these really all do stick. Do the right thing every time. When we're looking at your record, one little mistake, if you think, oh, it won't matter in the future, well, when you're going into an interview, we do look at everything. So you want to make sure you can set yourself up for success as much as possible. And we totally understand mistakes happen, and we're not going to hold every little thing against you. But the less that you are able to have on there just makes you that much more competitive and that much more likely to succeed with getting any kind of position in the aviation industry. On time matters. This is a really important one. Our partners are relying us to deliver passengers on time, so they're not missing connections. They want to be on getting to their destinations at the appropriate times. And this starts with showing up for your lessons if you're going to flight school, right on time. Practice showing up early. For Mesa Airlines, 45 minutes early is on time. So practice being early because the habits that you develop now will really reflect on the rest of your career. Prepare for the lifestyle. While it is a challenging lifestyle, you may be away a lot, it's a very rewarding one. You have the ability to see things that most people don't get to see in their lifetime, especially with the travel benefits. You get to go explore. You will be away from your family sometimes, but of course, there's a lot of benefits as well. As your family gets those travel benefits, they can also travel with you. And do take advantage of leadership opportunities. We noticed if you were maybe the safety officer or you were the lead flight instructor at your flight school, or even if you took lead on something small like an initiative within your training center, stuff like that.
Perfect. And then additionally on that, and not just even organizations, but also volunteering and diversifying your time. Those are, and even just having the foresight right now with the requirement at Mesa of having the ATP certificate, getting the CTP out of the way to prepare yourself. Those are all additional means, correct?
Absolutely. So there's lots of things out there that you can, lots of organizations rather, that you can volunteer with, such as EAA. There's the Aviation Exploring Organization. Women in Aviation puts on lots of events such as Girls in Aviation Day, where you can step up and show us how you have the desire to help others. And again, like you said, Ashley, step up, take the initiative to get that ATP CTP license, because we do require you to get that ATP prior to coming on property at Mesa now.
Well, the next thing that we're going to talk about is another topic that I know a lot of our students and instructors are really excited about. So can you speak to your participation in United's Aviate program as a United Express carrier, and just the opportunities to either transition from ATP to Mesa to United, or even an independent entry point if someone maybe wants to wait a little bit at Mesa and then be able to enter Aviate and United?
Absolutely. As you know, United has created 5 paths for you to be able to enter their pipeline to become a pilot for them. And luckily, ATP is one of those starting points as a professional training partner, which leads right into one of the 4 UAX partners, which Mesa Airlines does happen to be one of those. It provides talented pilots a faster path to United. So you'll get your ratings at ATP. Once you hit your ATP minimums and receive your ATP license, if you successfully pass our interview, then you can come on board to Mesa, fly your required time, and then transition over to United. Some important tips here: you must maintain outstanding performance at Mesa Airlines. United is very strict on what they require performance-wise. You can't be calling out sick on holidays. You can't, no-show flights. It's really important to show that you are committed, because if you don't show up for a flight, that's hundreds of people out on getting potentially to their next destination. Additionally, keep a clean training record as well. With Mesa Airlines, not only ATP, they do look at your training record with Mesa as well, and they want to see that you've been successful.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. At this time, we do have one last question for you before we move on to our viewer Q&A. And if that would be, if you have one piece of advice to give our viewers today, what would that be?
Yeah, this is kind of one piece of advice with 2 pieces of advice in it. The first thing is that training history. Take every check ride that you take it seriously, because it may be one check ride failure, but you don't want that to be the one that sets you apart. If you have a check ride failure, don't let it bother you, because again, like I said, we do understand things happen, but you want that competitive edge as much as possible, which leads me to my next point of decision making. Your decision making to study hard for these check rides, take them seriously, and decision making all across the board, making sure that you're making the right choices when you're not at the training center either. can really make a difference in your future career.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that info. We are going to move on to our viewer Q&A. So it looks like the first one is from Clive, and he just wants to know how to apply for Mesa and all of the requirements to become a pilot at Mesa.
Yeah, so we do offer two ways you can apply with Mesa Airlines. We have our application system internally. If you go to mesa-air.com and select on the pilots careers and then the pilots tab, you can see there's that big blue apply now button. That'll be our internal website. And then we also do give you the opportunity to apply via airline apps. If you haven't heard of airline apps, they're another website that we contract with externally, where you can apply to multiple airlines at once with filling out only one application. Some tips for that, I know we talked about this earlier, Ashley. Make sure you're filling out that application true and correct, okay? Don't take the time to make sure that you're putting the correct information on there. You're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, which means, put periods where they need to be, capital letters where they need to be. It just shows that you care. If you're, keeping things lowercase that shouldn't be, and making mistakes, spelling errors, or you submit an application and then come back to us and say, hey, I made a few mistakes on there. Do you mind correcting them? It shows the level of dedication you have to the career at Mesa Airlines. And again, like I said, we always understand mistakes happen, but try to keep mistakes on the application limited.
And it looks like we had a follow-up question from that Megan on our Facebook Live. She would just like to know, as far as the minimums, what are all of the minimums that you accept as far as?
Absolutely. So Mesa Airlines recently increased our requirement to have that ATP license. So not only just the ATP minimums, but we do want you to have the ATP rating in hand when you show up for class. There's multiple ways to get that ATP. Flight School has a great program for that as well. So definitely something to look into. And then of course the standard first class medical, a high school diploma or GED equivalent, passport, and the ability to get in and outside the US without restrictions, as we do fly internationally.
Perfect. Awesome. And then looks like, okay, she's one of our instructors out on the West Coast. She said, hey, Nick, you mentioned that 3-year seat lock. Can you expand just a little bit more on that? Thank you.
Yeah, so let's say you start out on the CRJ 900 training initially. You'll train on that aircraft, you'll fly that aircraft. Once you do have the ability to upgrade on that airframe, and you do upgrade, you can upgrade on the CRJ or the 175, but once you upgrade on that aircraft, you do have to sit in that seat for 3 years before you can change aircraft.
Awesome. It looks like we had another question from Facebook Live. Jason would like to know just how Mesa is doing with coronavirus and maybe what procedures you guys have taken in and put in place to ensure your all of your team members are safe and operationally, as far as with the aircraft, fogging, things like that.
Absolutely. So we are working very hard with our partners, American and United, following all the protocols they're putting into place with regards to wearing face coverings. Recently, United just sent out some training material to all of our employees, which all of our employees just completed mandatory training by United to increase our education on how to prevent and limit the spread of the coronavirus. At our corporate headquarters, we're doing temperature checks, mandating face coverings, and then we also have a large portion of our employees at corporate headquarters working remotely to reduce the spread or potential of the spread, and reevaluating monthly to see what that looks like and when we can come back and if we need to continue working this way. And it's actually been quite successful, and we've had the ability to continue to maintain outstanding performance with our partners as well.
Perfect. And Randy, oh, he's another one of our instructors. It's great. Given the pandemic, do you potentially see any expansion possibilities for bases?
Currently, I don't have much knowledge on any expansion of bases, potentially in the future, but as of now, we aren't looking at opening any other bases.
But you are getting more aircraft. That's great.
We are getting more aircraft, yes.
Perfect. And Reza would like to know what advice you would just give to pilots specifically that have fewer hours and as far as different opportunities to build time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can build time. If you're at ATP, they provide the crew course, which allows you to fly with another pilot, which really develops those CRM skills. So if you're building time outside of ATP, do that with another friend who's a pilot or someone you can fly with to practice running that checklist together as a crew, decision-making skills as a crew, and it'll really let you get a head start on working with another crew member in the cockpit once you transition to the 121 world.
Perfect. Awesome. And then the partnership program, now Blake's just wanting to get a little bit more info about the transition points as far as Mesa being affiliated with Aviate.
Yeah, so I'll let you continue.
Oh, I was going to say, and so Blake, you can apply while you're at ATP, and once you have the minimum qualifications, but you can also apply when you're with Mesa, and I'll let Nick talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's multiple entry points that United has prescribed for you to be able to enter the Aviate program. One is as a student at ATP or instructing with ATP rather, and then if you're a pilot for us, even if you're past the ATP phase and you're flying for us and you haven't applied yet, you are more than welcome to apply to United. And you actually can apply to United Aviate within 6 months of your class date if you already have received an offer from us. So you can apply with United Aviate. They'll review your application and then call you in for your interview. Should you successfully pass that interview, then you'd be required to meet all the minimum qualifications, which would be 1,500 hours as a captain with us, if you are a captain rather, and then 2,000 hours total time if you remain as a first officer before you can transition over to United. And those are minimum qualifications, so they do have to have vacancies available in training as well.
Perfect. And then just to follow up on that, I know something that there's sometimes a little bit of confusion on it, guys, is the application that you complete for Aviate is independent from your interview at Mesa. So you complete the Aviate interview, and then you still have to complete the interview that Nick detailed as far as an independent one with Mesa.
Yeah, something to note is that your position, if you do receive a position with United Aviate, you don't have a guaranteed job with us. So please do take that interview seriously with us. Just because you already are in United Aviate does not mean you have a first officer position. Like I said, you have to go through the full process, and we will go through our full interview vetting process before we bring you on board.
Perfect. And then as far as the HR portion of the interview, I know you went over this a little bit, but what are some tips you have for our viewers on just how to really prepare to ace that interview?
Yeah, so come prepared. Think of a few stories that you've had that have maybe been, what's a time where you maybe had a malfunction in the cockpit or a stressful situation. Show us how you communicated, the decision-making skills, the decision-making thought process you went through, and how your conflict resolution skills if you had an issue with another person, and again, your ability to manage tasks. I know I heard this on the last session as well. Being able to manage a lot of tasks at once is essential to being a pilot in the 121 world and for Mesa.
Perfect. And we are getting a couple questions and just about upcoming hiring. Guys, we're not going to speculate. I'll let Nick speak to this, but that's information as soon as hiring is able to resume, then he'll provide that. But we don't want to put information out when we don't have a concrete answer for when hiring might resume.
So currently we are accepting applications for first officers and interviewing first officer candidates, but we do not have any scheduled training classes. All of our pilots are being put into a pool until training resumes.
And then we did have a question from Micah on Facebook, just is the cadet program. He just wanted to know about that and what's currently.
So currently we do have our cadet program interviewing new applicants on hold just for now until we have more clarity on when we're going to be able to resume bringing on our cadet candidates. But we do currently still have just over 100 cadets in the pipeline who will also come on board once they finish their minimums, once we do have training resumed.
Perfect. Awesome. And then what are some common, as far as the application process, what are some common errors that you see when reviewing applications?
Yeah, so a few common errors. Again, this comes back to taking the time to make sure your application is fully complete without mistakes. Oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, a few times there have been resumes that have been attached to applications that state the desire to work for another carrier. So we do understand, you may be applying to multiple airlines at once, but make sure you do update your resume to have that correct carrier that you are applying for, because again, it reflects on your desire to work for our airline. Again, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, making sure things are capitalized, you have your periods in the right spot, and you're not making spelling and major grammatical errors either.
Perfect. And then with regard to logbooks, what are some of the tips that you can give applicants to prepare and have ready coming into the interview?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things is make sure your logbook is completely totaled up. And when we ask you for your times, make sure you can give those to us, pretty quickly, rather than having to, grab your calculator and add up all your times right there in front of us. Make sure that your logbook is fully complete. Again, when they're doing the logbook checks, when you do come on property, they don't like seeing whiteout in there. If you do have to correct something in your logbook, cross it out, initial it, put the correct thing. Don't white things out.
Perfect. And then with that, I know something that also that you guys review is you'd mentioned your check ride failures. So guys do know that when they're going through this logbook review, that is something that they'll be able to see those stickers in the back. So when Nick was speaking to before with integrity, it's important to make sure that everything on your application matches what you do have in your logbook as well.
Right, and not only on the application, we will give you the chance to explain why whatever happened in the check ride, what happened. And we want to make sure that when you tell us about these check rides, you tell us about all of them. There have been a few circumstances where, you come do your interview and then give us a call later and say, hey, by the way, I forgot to tell you about these 2 other check ride failures. Make sure right off the bat, you have everything written down, you have it detailed. When did it happen? What happened? What rating? Was it on the oral portion? Was it on the flight portion? And you really take ownership of what happened. I understand sometimes there's ways you can try to fault someone else for your check ride failure, but at the end of the day, it is your check ride, it's your career. At the end of the day, you need to take ownership of what happened and learn from it. We don't expect you to have 0 check ride failures. We understand that it does happen, but make sure you use it as a learning opportunity. Take that and run with it and move on.
Sound advice. Okay, so it looks like Clive had a follow-up question. No, Clive, so you would still need to reach ATP minimums before you'd be able to apply to Mesa. So once you complete the career program, you would then need to build time as either an instructor or with different maybe 91 opportunities, but to bridge that remaining time to reach true ATP minimums right now and to have your ATP certificate in order to be able to interview with Mesa. And then it looks like Lisa had a question just about the Aviate program. Lisa, right now you're able to apply for the Aviate program. They do require, if you're with a partner school, that or one of the partner schools or universities, you do have to have at least a private pilot's license. You can apply. I don't believe right now they are interviewing. So, but it's always good to get that application submitted earlier on. And I think the same is true for Mesa as soon as you reach ATP minimums.
Yeah, so United Aviate is still reviewing applications, and we, again, are for first officer candidates, are reviewing applications as well and interviewing.
Perfect. And then, so Alma, you're asking about the hiring process. So you do have to have your ATP, and you have to have multi-engine privileges in order to be able to apply.
Yes, it does have to be an ATP multi.
And then we'll just show you guys, because there also was a question on how to apply. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this pulled up really quick, and we can show you again on Mesa's site where you're able to do that. So right here, let me give you guys the browser. So if you just start and you are on Mesa's website, mesa-air.com, then you'll go to careers, pilot careers. And then once you click on that, you do have the opportunity to hit apply now there. Additionally, you can go to airlineapps.com. And then if you scroll down, you'll find Mesa's logo. You can click on that and you'll be able to see the opportunities there as well.
Thanks for covering that, Ashley.
And thank you. So what other advice can you just give us as far as applicants that are in really the time building phase to help prepare, to help really develop and foster those answers to the questions, those tell me about a time when questions?
Yeah, definitely. So my advice for you would be, whenever you have an event that you think is worthy of taking notes on, put a little sticky in your logbook, and then go into the notes section of your iPhone or a notebook, keep a notebook or something, write about that experience. You don't want to forget about it. Like I said, I'm also a CFII, and I've had my fair share of experiences that I think are noteworthy. And I have a section in the notes tab of my phone where, you know, I'll just go debrief what happened with that situation, and reflect on what I took away from that situation. And it's not only been flying situations, but it's just been overall customer service experience situations where maybe I was at the airport and there was someone who was struggling, and, you know, I was able to help them, and I just took some notes on that, debriefed what happened to really be able to, you know, hopefully when I'm trying to move on to that major carrier, what can I bring, what did I learn from that situation? And that's true right now, as early as your private pilot stage. From private pilot to time building, you can take notes on those situations to reflect on those.
And then Reza would just like to know, are there any age requirements? So
we follow the FAA restrictions. So the FAA says that you must be 21 years old to have a restricted ATP, and then 65 is the max age you can be for 121 flying. But as long as you are within that range, we strongly encourage you to apply, because if you're putting in you know, hard work and energy to get those hours and make the time to study, we think you are more than worth it to join our team. And, you know, we have a lot of pilots from all walks of life, all ages, who are flying for us.
Perfect. And then as far as pre-COVID, can you just talk a little bit about maybe what the reserve times were, and you know, how long a pilot would be on reserve? And
yeah, so prior to COVID, our reserve time was on average 2 to 5 months, depending on which airframe. The CRJ was a little bit lower than the 175. Once we do resume hiring and things start to pick back up, I'm not sure exactly what the reserve time will be. It could be, you know, likely a little bit longer than that. And then upgrade times as well. Prior to COVID, 14 to 22 months on the upgrade. once things start to pick up. I'm not exactly sure where that will be. But once we do resume, we'll definitely have things advertising what our reserve and upgrade times are.
And can you walk us through maybe just, I know that we talked about the different components of the interview, but can you walk us through maybe start to finish once someone goes ahead and applies, how long it takes typically to hear back from Mesa, and then an overview of that interview day?
Absolutely. So our goal is always to contact you within that same week that you apply. But currently we are experiencing a high volume of applications due to what is going on. So we do try to get back to you within a week to 2 weeks. That's about a week to week and a half is likely when you'll hear back from us. We'll do a basic phone screen, so we'll give you a call. We'll ask you a few questions. Why Mesa Airlines? Tell us about, how you got into aviation, and why you're looking to move on. And then we'll hopefully from there, if you pass the phone screen, it's not really a pass-fail. You should be able to get through that. Then we'll schedule an interview with you, hopefully for the following week. Our interviews do happen via Zoom, so same as this platform right here. On Zoom, we'll set up an hour-and-a-half block, and then we'll go through all those questions. Once you do complete that interview, we take our notes, we pass them along to our review board. Once our review board makes a decision, then we will send you what our result is from that interview. And then that typically occurs within the same week that the interview takes place.
And then Clive would just like to know a little bit more. We talked about some of the other benefits, but can you talk about the pay scales for first officers and captains?
Yeah, definitely. So let me pull this up right here. Pay scales pulled up. So starting off, a first-year first officer will be making $36 per flight hour with a 76-hour monthly guarantee. Year 2 FOs are going to make $38 per flight hour through year 4, and then year 5 FOs $39 per flight hour. And then once you upgrade to captain, it is a sliding scale depending on which aircraft you're flying. For the CRJ 900 and Embraer 175, year 2 captains make $69, and on the 700 it's $64 per flight hour. And then year 3, it's going to be $71 per flight hour on the CRJ 900 and Embraer 175, and $65 per flight hour on the CRJ 700 year 3. And the reason I don't include year 1 captain is because you will likely need a year to build that 121 time. The FAA mandates 1,000 hours of second in command 121 time prior to you being able to upgrade. And then it's not like you start over to year 1 captain, you just slide over to whichever year you're working for us.
Perfect. And then your monthly guarantee as far as hours?
Yeah, so our monthly guarantee is 76 hours per month. Prior to COVID, when our flying was pretty high, people would average about anywhere from 80 to 84 hours. Currently, I'm not too sure what the average is, just with everything going on, that it is changing by the moment.
Perfect. And then, but that being said, you are able to get that 76. As far as bidding for days off, is there a minimum number of days off per month that pilots are guaranteed?
Yeah, so contractually, 11 days off per month is standard. The average is between 13 to 14 days off per month. That's even in a normal period. Right now, because there is a little bit less flying, people are able to bid for even more time off.
Perfect. And then Alma would like to know, as far as, are there any incentives for pilots that have increased multi-engine experience prior to being hired versus just multi-engine hours? So maybe this is more of a direct entry question.
It depends what that multi-time is. If it's multi-time at another 121 carrier, then yes, that is extremely valuable to us, especially the 121 time is what's especially valuable. But as far as if it's just your time building multi-time, if you have more hours than another candidate, we're very happy that you have that extra time, but it's not going to give you an extreme boost on your application just because you have a little bit more of that.
Perfect, thank you. And then, as far as the benefits, so I think something that pilots or pilots that are just starting out in their career as well sometimes don't realize is we talked about those hourly rates and that hourly guarantee, but can you speak a little bit about how per diem works?
Yeah, so per diem is paid out as time away from base. So for every hour that you're flying, and for every hour that you're not back in your home base, you're getting paid. I think currently our per diem's at $1.65 per hour. So from the time that parking brake is released and you're pushing back from the gate, you're getting $1.65 per hour, even when you're sleeping in your hotel room. So that does add up, and it is something to note that you will be receiving that in addition to your minimum hourly guarantee.
Clive would like to know, what is your opinion on flying versus building an aircraft? Clive, are you asking, maybe you can follow up with us if you're asking about physically building one or just building time in your own aircraft? We'll give him a second to respond.
Okay.
But as far as time build, we'll go with that to start and see if.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways you can time build, and I oftentimes get this question: should I go to a 135 carrier? Should I flight instruct? Should I fly my own airplane? Or how should I build my time? And I'll be honest, there's a lot of different ways you can build your time, but it's really what's right for you and what do you get out of that time. Are you getting the experience? Are you taking the time to properly fly that airplane, run those checklists, taking it to the next level, challenging yourself? And so what do you get from that flying? Again, we're going to ask you these questions, these tell me about a time questions, and we want to make sure that you have the experience to be able to answer these questions. So make sure if you're flying your own airplane that you're challenging yourself and still holding yourself accountable for flying to the same standard of maybe flight instructing or 135 charter flying. There's lots of different ways to do it. It's what is right for you.
So it looks like he was actually asking about building an aircraft. So have you ever, I guess he's just curious, have you ever had a desire to work on the A&P side? Or maybe you can speak to some of the benefits of that if you're going to make a career progression to a pilot.
You know what, I haven't personally had the desire to move over to the A&P side, but what I have had the desire to do is go stand next to one of the aircraft owners of a guy's plane who I fly, and I'll watch him change the oil on his airplane and fix things as he is an A&P as well. And it teaches you a lot about the airplane and the mechanics of it. So I have had a few applicants who are also A&Ps, and they have a really great understanding of how the airplane works, and it creates a desire to learn even more about the next airplane that they're going to fly for us. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to go pursue if you care to do that, especially because it creates a backup opportunity as well. On your days off, you could go work at your local maintenance shop if you care to. So there's definitely some advantages to that.
And that brings up a point that I don't think we've actually covered on a webinar before, but it's definitely good information. So after an applicant is selected and starts training, have you seen or do you have any recommendations, study habits to really help ensure that they are successful in training and out on IOE?
Absolutely. So when you're going through training, it's 3 months of very intensive training. You're taking information from a fire hose. It's going to be a lot of information. Before you show up to class, when we send you your offer letter, we also send you a link with some of your flows, call-outs, profiles, emergencies. We want you to study some of those flows and call-outs, be able to have a basic understanding of some of these things so that when you show up to class, you understand some of the stuff and it's not all new information. If it's all new information to you, you may be able to manage it, but it will be tough. Another thing is make sure you study with your classmates. Your classmates will really be able to help you out. Make sure you create study groups, spend time after class studying. Your weekends are your study times. And so it's really 3 months of being committed to studying and spending time with your classmates to have a really solid understanding. Study now, have fun later. You want to make sure you pass that 121 training event.
For sure. And Clive would also like to know, he said, thank you for the answer as far as the AMP side. Do you see a lot of applicants? So maybe he's just starting out and exploring ATP. Do you see a lot of applicants from us?
From ATP, I do. I see quite a few applicants. And again, I touched on this earlier. I've seen a lot of the ATP applicants who come to the interview very prepared with the answers to the tell me about a time questions, because they have had that experience of flying with another crew member on crew.
And even just something that I think that is really great from a perspective is those crews not only flying with another pilot that's not your instructor, but also to have that true crew cross-country experience where you're getting different types of topography and you're dealing with density, altitude, and
weather, point A to point B, new airports, new layouts. It's really great experience.
Perfect. And Michael would like to know, can you just go into some details about utilizing, so maybe I think he's already a cadet, travel, or just in general, travel benefits.
Utilizing travel benefits? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what was he asking for, tips or how?
Yeah, just how to utilize them.
Yeah, so if you if you are already a cadet for us, when you came on board, you would have had to register for them. And then there is a website that you can access the portal on. If you do need that website, please send me an email individually or a message. If you need that information, Ashley can provide you my email as well, and you can reach out and we can talk about that.
Perfect. Well, with that being said, while we're on travel benefits, since I know that is something that you really enjoy, what has been your favorite place to travel and utilize so far?
Yeah, so my favorite place to go is always Europe. Europe has a lot of great places to go, things to see, a lot of different cultural aspects to see there. Unfortunately, right now, there's not a lot of Europe traveling going on. But what's unique about the travel benefits is if there's a seat, you get to go at no cost on the way there, and on the way back, you just pay the taxes. And there's even the ability sometimes to travel up front in first class or business class, depending on availability, which is a great experience as well.
Well, guys, go ahead and type some more of your questions. We've got through a lot of them, but while you're thinking of a couple more to ask Nick, we would maybe just expand upon, since we do have so many that are really just starting out in aviation. So once all of the interviewing and really just in volume resumes, then can you just talk about when someone when you'd really recommend they start thinking about applying and deciding on those preferences?
So with our, if and when our cadet program does resume, the appropriate time to apply would be when you get your commercial rating. We don't want you to apply too early. Because we've had the experience where we ask some questions that are a little bit more sophisticated than the private pilot instrument level. And we want you to be able to be successful on this interview. And the way to do that is to apply once you have your commercial. We have found that once you apply when you have your commercial, then you have the appropriate experiences to be able to answer those questions appropriately.
Perfect. And Blake, Nick wouldn't be able to answer that, but you are more than welcome to reach out to either myself or the admissions team to discuss just what your first couple months at ATP would look like. Can you talk a little bit more about the intensity of the training program? So it looks like Clive's son's actually interested and just wants some more advice on having a fast-paced style of training, not just even training to obtain those ratings, but training in your initial training at Mesa as well.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, we provide you the materials beforehand. We provide you some of the materials rather. Take a look at those, get to know those materials as best as you can to the best of your ability, and reach out, make connections with people. If you want to get in touch with the first officer with us and ask them about their experience, we would be more than happy to put one of our part-time pilot recruiters who actually fly the line for us in contact with you, so you can ask the questions you have about, our first officer training program and what items you specifically should cover. Again, same tips apply. Make sure you use those weekends, night times to study with your peers so you can be successful in the training program.
And then we are getting to the end, so we'll take one more viewer question. And then, so the last one is from Alma, and just asking, again, about different types of experience and as far as what really looks favorable to Mesa. So aside from just having the true either 61, 159, the ATP minimums or restricted ATP minimums, can you talk about some of the different type of flying that is desirable and maybe has skills that correspond to flying as a first officer at Mesa?
So there's two different sides to this. There's the two main ones that I see is the flight instructing path or the 135 path. What the 135 path really sets you up for is following SOPs, working with another crew member, making on-the-fly decisions, flying to different airports, point A to point B, new weather, new topography, like you mentioned, Ashley. The flight instructing side really strengthens your knowledge. You're going to have a really great understanding of systems. Again, you're going to be used to being the authoritative figure in the cockpit, which makes for great captains. So there's really benefits to both sides. It's what is the right fit for you.
And I know I said that we would give one last one, but I do see one more that's worth answering on our Facebook Live. So Brandon said that he is definitely interested in the Embraer 175, and he knows that you have those in Houston. Maybe he tuned in a little bit late and didn't hear what you had to say. So can you just talk about with what is coming up with additional deliveries, where those might be located, as he is in the Washington, D.C. area?
Yeah, so starting in September through January, we'll be taking delivery of 20 new Embraer 175s on our United Express side. So that's very exciting news, and it'll be great for people on the East Coast.
Well, we always end with, if you just had one final piece of advice to impart on our viewers today, especially in light of everything that's going on, what would that be?
My advice would be, don't give up right now. It's easy to say, okay, it's time to switch career paths. But again, I'm sure you've heard this on other ride reports, but it's still a good time. When pilot hiring resumes to normal levels, it's going to be even more than the normal level from before, because there's going to be that much more retirements for the same amount of flying with, however long of a gap without pilot hiring. So now is a great time to start training, and don't lose hope.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for taking the time to speak with us today and share all of this knowledge. And Clive also says thank you for all of the information that you provided. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with us today. And for all of our viewers, if you do have more questions on opportunities at Mesa, again, the website is just mesa-air.com. And if you'd like to tune in for future ride reports, you can just visit atpflightschool.com/webinar. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you again, Nick, and everyone fly safe.